I was sitting here beneath this same old palm tree, slowly sipping from my calabash, when young Chike came running toward me, his legs kicking up red dust, his breath short and sharp. His small chest pounded like a talking drum. "Baba," he cried, gasping for air, "they've taken Okoro the tapper to the evil forest. They flogged him, tied his hands and legs with ropes, and dragged him across the ground. He talked about selling the palm wine. He told us he killed them. I don't understand," he begged and pleaded, but no one saved him. I only shook my head. Chike was just 7 years old. He couldn't possibly know how this story truly began. To him, it started with the dragging, the beatings, the shame. But I had seen the roots of it growing for years. Mama Ifechukwu had told me everything, even the day she first noticed it, the glint of envy in Okoro's eyes. She saw it before most of us, a flicker, barely there, but dangerous all the same. That's how it always begins, not with noise or fire, but with silence. Something small, something unspoken. This story started quietly, like fire hidden in dry grass. Okoro was once a happy man. His legs were strong, his hands steady, and his laughter echoed across the village market like a familiar song. He minded his business, selling his palm wine with an easy smile and a quick joke for every customer. At home, he was the kind of man who tied his wrapper high and helped his wife with chores. He carried his child on his back, danced with children in the evenings, and told stories that made their eyes shine. Life was not perfect, but it was enough. Until the day Obinna returned from the city. He came draped in fine, new wrappers that shimmered in the sun, with gold on his wrist and the air of a man who had seen the world and conquered it. He tossed money to the drummers like it was ground nuts, and the rhythm of their drums followed him through the village like a royal procession. People gathered, they cheered, they hailed Obinna with names meant for kings. Even Okoro clapped. He smiled and called out with the rest. But when night fell and he lay on his raffia mat staring at the patched ceiling of his hut, the applause in his heart faded. A quiet storm brewed inside him. His thoughts came like a whisper at first, then a roar. So I was wrong. When Obinna asked me to follow him to the city years ago, I told him no. I said I was doing well here, that with time, effort, and hard work, I'd build something great. Back then, I was ahead of him. I was making more money. I had more customers. He was the one struggling. I thought I knew better. We tapped palm wine side by side once, and I was bigger, wasn't I? So why should he rise while I remain with dust on my feet? His chest tightened. Maybe the gods have cursed me. Maybe I've wasted my years chasing a dream that dried up like spilled wine in the sun. But then, a harder thought came. One that clenched his jaw and lit something behind his eyes. No, I will not stay beneath him. I will find a way. I must. And from that night onward, something dark and sharp coiled inside him. Envy. It slid into his chest like a snake and made a home there, wrapping itself around every thought, every dream. And it refused to leave. The next day, Okoro and his family visited Obinna at the grand mansion he had built in the village. The house stood like a monument, tall, polished, and dripping with wealth. Every corner gleamed, every surface spoke of money. The air inside carried the rich aroma of spices and stews simmering in the kitchen, the kind of smell that made Okoro's stomach twist with hunger, though he'd eaten just hours ago. Obinna and his wife greeted them at the door, their smiles wide and welcoming. Obinna's handshake was firm, confident, a man clearly proud of what he had built. His wife, graceful in her movements, offered kind words and ushered them in with the warmth of a good hostess. Chairs were pulled, backs were patted, and soon the conversation turned to life in the city, the booming business, the foreign clients, the blessings that had found Obinna, as he put it, with a self-satisfied chuckle. Okoro smiled, nodded, and laughed when it was expected, but deep inside something stirred. A quiet envy at the way Obinna's eyes sparkled when he spoke of his success. Then the food came. Silver trays were laid out in front of them, steaming with jollof rice, grilled goat meat, and thick soups that made mouths water. Just as Okoro reached for his spoon, a loud crash interrupted the moment. His youngest, little Adara, had tipped her plate on the floor. The food splattered everywhere and the ceramic dish broken into pieces. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then a neatly dressed attendant rushed over, eyes flashing with barely concealed irritation. She bent down quickly, cleaning the mess while muttering under her breath. Villagers and their lack of manners. Okoro stiffened. He looked at Obina, expecting, hoping for him to say something. But Obina only gave a small laugh, waved a dismissive hand, and said, "Don't worry, it's nothing. These things happen." But it didn't feel like nothing to Okoro. Not when his child had just been humiliated in front of everyone. Not when his host, his old friend, had let the insult slide so easily. He sees me and my family as beneath him now, Okoro thought bitterly, stealing a glance at Obina, who was already back to chatting and laughing like nothing had happened. I suppose defending us isn't worth it anymore. He's too big for that now. After the meal, Obina handed them neatly wrapped gifts, imported goods, some fabric, a bottle of wine, and walked them to the door with a broad smile. Okoro smiled back for formality's sake, exchanged pleasantries, and left with what seemed like joy. But as they walked home, Okoro's heart was heavy, not with jealousy alone, but with a deep, burning resentment. It was one thing to see Obina rise. It was another to watch him gloat and stay silent while his child was ridiculed.